Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is my very first lecture, and I also have to say that is my very first lecture that I've ever had to record, and I'm a little freaked out about it. I really wanted to wait until my COVID cut grew out, but that's neither here nor there. It is what it is, and we have limited time, so let's get the show on the road, so to speak. Don't worry about writing anything down. I'm just going to talk to you, and then I will share my lecture notes. I'll photograph them and put them online so you can see them. Just listen. I know in the past when I've been taking college classes, I've gotten really bogged down with writing notes, and then I realized I probably could have benefited more from just listening. Anyway, your first two assignments are to write a persuasive essay and an informative essay. They can be in either order. One of them should be a final copy on your own, and one of them should be a rough draft. And that will give me an opportunity to look at your writing and see what weaknesses and strengths that you have. There are only just a few people in the class, so I should be able to work with you pretty well. I'm kind of excited about it. It's sort of nice to have a class this small. Anyway, the first two sections of your textbook that we covered, informative writing and persuasive writing, okay? What is the difference between them, and when is it appropriate to use what? Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the difference between informative and explanatory writing when you're writing an essay, for instance. Okay, so informative writing, otherwise known as explanatory writing, it's just the facts with minimal commentary. Okay, just the facts, ma'am. I know probably most of you are too young to remember Dragnet. Joe Friday would just say, "Just the facts, ma'am," when he was interviewing people as a detective. Okay, so just the facts with minimal commentary. The writer may not, and I say may because sometimes the writer may, okay, but in general, the writer may not overly consider the reader's emotional reaction, okay? Emotions are not as important in informative or explanatory writing. And there's also no overt value judgment. Is this thing that I'm explaining about bad or good, whatever. There's no overt value judgment. Okay, that being said, and I'll talk about this a little later, sometimes a writer can write something explanatory and you yourself might feel emotional about it. That's you yourself. It might be because you're an empathetic person. It's not necessarily the writer doing that, okay? So next we have persuasive and or argumentative writing. They're closely related types of writing. They are slightly different. Argumentative is somewhat more fact-based than persuasive. Persuasive writing uses more emotions and sometimes fallacies, and we'll talk about what fallacies are later on, not today, but in another lecture, okay? But both of them have the same objective. Both persuasive and argumentative writing have the same objective, and that is to change the reader's mind about something. For instance, one of the very first pieces I asked you to read was that essay about selling organs. Okay, personally, I find the idea of selling organs very repugnant. However, but by the end of the article, I was thinking, maybe if people did sell their organs, like, a kidney or whatever, perhaps, more lives would be saved. I mean, I really do hate the idea, though, of people earning money off of their body parts, because I really think that there is, what's the word I'm looking for? There's opportunity for exploitation if poor people especially, sell their body parts. But anyway, they both have the same objective, to change the reader's mind, and facts as well as commentary create the atmosphere, okay? And I say the atmosphere, what I mean is like the conditions under which you can be persuaded. All right? So, both persuasive and argumentative writing also make heavy use of the Aristotelian Triangle. The triangle of rhetoric, God knows you've probably heard that before. Probably every English teacher you've ever had spoke about ethos, logos, and pathos. ELP, ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos, as you know, okay, is credibility, legal precedent, or is it ethical? Ethics, credibility, legal precedence. Okay. For instance, if you read a piece of writing that's persuasive and they ask experts' opinion, like the Surgeon General, for instance, the Surgeon General is considered the highest ranking doctor in the country. Okay. So his pronouncements on health are to be taken to heart. For instance, years ago, the Surgeon General said that smoking is detrimental to your health. And most people believe that, and it actually is really true no matter what the tobacco companies say, okay? Ethically, the Surgeon General can tell us that smoking is bad for you and it will be credible, okay? Pathos is emotion. Pathos is emotion, and building on the same smoking argument, okay? Building on the same smoking argument, if you smoke, you could die and leave your children as orphans, okay? I'm using pathos to try to convince you not to smoke cigarettes, okay? And logos, facts and statistics. 25% of people who try a cigarette will become addicted. Okay, I just made that statistic up off the top of my head just for explanation's sake. I mean, I'm sure there is a statistic like that. Okay, so persuasive relies more heavily on ethos and pathos than argumentative writing, and especially emotional manipulation, with fallacies sometimes too. And we'll talk about fallacies later. Fallacies are ways in which a speaker or writer can cheat, make people believe what he or she is saying or writing about, but the examples and the manipulation are not credible, okay? All right, so again, there's no pathos in informative writing. Sometimes that's the only way you can tell the difference. But also be careful when, if you feel something, for instance, it's probably you if it's informative writing, but it's probably the writer manipulating you if it's persuasive or argumentative writing. Again, sometimes informative writing can make you feel things, can make you want to take action, but it's not the writer doing the work, it's you, because you're an empathetic person. All right? A persuasive piece, the writer actually has the goal of persuading you. All right, so let's move on. Again, Aristotelian Triangle, blah, 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 ethos, pathos, logos. Ethos, credibility, legal precedent. Is it ethical? Pathos, emotion. Logos, facts and statistics. All of those are used in argumentative and persuasive writing. 2 out of the 3 are used in informative writing. Ethos and logos only. All right. Moving on. Okay, structures for informative and argumentative writing are pretty much the same for each type. Okay, when writing an essay, try to pick the best structure to fit what your goal is. First, figure out where your goal is, your topic or your goal, and then figure out the most appropriate way to get to your goal. Okay, the structure of your essay is actually going to be your mode of transportation. Okay, let's say that your essay is a journey in which you are the driver and you are taking your reader on a journey, okay? The structure of the essay is the way that you are going to get to your goal, okay? These are listed in the book, but I'd like to talk about each of them. Okay, first of all is narration, All right. Narration is the easiest type of writing there is. Basically, you tell a story. You have been reading narratives since probably you were in kindergarten. Maybe someone had to read it to you when you were in kindergarten, but most people are very familiar with narratives. There are subtopics, substructures in narrative like flashback, stream of consciousness, etc. But basically, any piece of writing that tells a story, usually from the beginning, and then there's rising action, there's a climax, and then falling action, and then some kind of resolution or denouement. If you happen to like Law and Order SVU, I love it. It's my favorite show. I have always had this huge crush on Olivia Benson, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. But one reason why I talk about Law and Order SVU in English classes is because the structure of each episode falls very easily into that plot triangle that English teachers love to blab about. Okay, so the beginning of a narrative is the exposition. I almost forgot the word exposition. Exposition for SVU, I'm trying to like set up an example here, bear with me. Exposition in SVU is, you know, when the show opens and all the cops are in the precinct, you know, drinking their coffee, bullshitting, talking about their weekend, and then the complication arrives. Bum, 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 doink, doink. Someone's found a body, okay? And then the rising action, all the different leads that they have, some of them false leads, etc. The climax is when they catch the perp. The falling action is the courtroom scenes, blah, blah, blah. And the resolution is the perp ideally being led away to prison in cuffs. Okay? Again, every single Law and Order SVU episode falls into that traditional narrative plot structure where there's exposition, complication, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. All right? So there's also the second type I'd like to talk to you about is extended definition. All right. Extended definition is a type of explanatory or persuasive writing where you start out with a very narrow definition and then expand upon it with examples and expand upon it with a lot of connotation. You start out with a very narrow denotative definition and you expand out into everything that denotative definition might impact. Okay? Cause and effect is third. Cause and effect. This one aspect causes this effect. Okay, for instance, let's see. Moving on the smoking metaphor, it seems to be working out for me today. Lung cancer is caused by cigarettes. Cigarettes cause lung cancer. All right. The next structure is comparison contrast. Comparison contrast are when you take two things that have some similarities and look at the differences and similarities between them. Okay, for instance, I have both a cat and a dog, puppy actually, a 10-week-old puppy, sleeping beneath me on my feet. And if I were going to talk about the differences and similarities between them, okay, they're both mammals, they both have 4 legs, they both have, well, actually, they both have fur, falls into the category if they're both mammals. 4 legs, mammals, common household pets, they both hunt, those are commonalities, they both can hunt. Both domesticated. The differences between them, you would see one's more social than the other, that would be the dog. One is a little shyer than the other. You have to speak in a soft, gentle voice to get cats to like you, whereas if you want a dog to like you, you're like, come on boy, come on. And there are also differences in the way the things that they eat. For instance, cats eat less than dogs. Actually, that's a value judgment. I'll save that for persuasive. Okay. Dogs sometimes are not grow huge. Cats don't. All right. So that's basically comparison contrast. You look for similarities and differences. Sometimes teachers want you to sketch those out in a Venn diagram. I like to look at a Venn diagram. It helps me to see things visually, but that's not absolutely necessary. Okay, you can, if you want to chart out similarities and differences, a chart is okay too. Okay, so closely related is division and classification. Okay, division and classification is just like comparison and contrast, except that there's more than two things. Okay, so if I were going to compare and contrast the dog and the cat with a Venn diagram, if I were to slap up another part of the Venn diagram to overlap the first two circles, that would be a triple Venn diagram, and I could talk about another animal that's similar, perhaps a guinea pig. Okay, guinea pigs have in common with dogs that they are very social. For instance, in some countries, it's actually illegal to buy only one guinea pig. You have to buy them in sets of two or more because they could literally die from loneliness. Okay, dogs are also very social. What a guinea pig would have in common with a cat would be that they don't grow very big. All right. So again, division and classification is just simply when you compare and contrast more than two things. Description. Okay. Descriptive writing is a type of writing, a genre unto itself. However, it's also a structure for informative and argumentative writing. All right. Okay. Description, heavy imagery really set the scene in the reader's mind. Uses imagery and description. Okay, again, an informative writer might just describe something factually, like this is exactly the way it looks and smells, okay, as specifically as possible. If you have feelings about that, it's simply because you are an empathetic person. However, in persuasive writing, the description is going to be molded and shaped for you to feel a specific way, okay? And the last type of structure is exemplification. Exemplification just means examples. Example after example after example. Supporting example after supporting example after supporting example, to either inform your reader or to persuade your reader, okay? Again, when writing an essay, pick the structure that best fits your topic or goal, okay? You want to get to your goal in the most direct way possible, so your reader is not bored or confused like some of you might be listening to this lecture. I am doing the best I can. But anyway, pick the structure that best fits your topic. Okay, again, some final thoughts, you guys. Consider your essay like a journey or a road trip, okay? Your goal or purpose is the destination. The structure is your mode of transportation and or your roadmap. The writer is the driver. That's you. You want your passengers, like I said, to have a smooth ride where they can enjoy or react to the scenery, like the things that you want to show them on your journey, okay? And the punctuation, transitions, paragraphing are the rules of the road. All right, like imagine you're in the passenger seat, you're going on a road trip with somebody, and all of a sudden, you know, they screech on the brakes, they hit the brakes, and you're like falling up, you know, the airbag almost comes on, the stop is so hard. You know, if you're trying to enjoy a trip as the passenger, aka the reader, that's not really going to work for you, okay? You want to, as the writer, consider the reader. Consider the reader's enjoyment, consider the reader's level of understanding, and try to make things as clear as possible for the reader, all right? Okay. One more thing, going along with the driver analogy, the clarity of your writing is like the weather. You do not want to write. You do not want to write unclearly, because that is sort of like driving your car with passengers into the fog. They can't see the scenery. They have lost track of the goal. You want to avoid fog in your writing. It's sort of like the Buddhist parable of the diamond in the mud. Every one of you is capable of producing a diamond. That means really, really good writing. But sometimes, your teacher has to like wash away or help you wash away all of the mud from the diamond in order for you to see the brilliance of the diamond. Okay? So everyone in here is capable of producing a diamond as far as writing goes. All right? Again, fog is wordiness. You want to make your language as specific as possible, smooth transitions, logically organized paragraphs and sentences, okay? And just like you would plan on taking a road trip, planning is the key. Planning is the key to a good essay. And I guess that's about it. Like I said, you guys, I wish I had something profound to tell you about writing. But it's an everyday activity, and it brings me personally a lot of joy. And if I can somehow convince you that writing is actually something that's pretty enjoyable as well as practical, then I will have done my job. Please don't hesitate to call me. Well, don't call me. Never mind. Text me. Text me. I respond very well to texts or email as well. Let me know if you have any questions. And again, like I said, I'm going to photograph my lecture notes and share them with you. So please, if you want to look at them while you follow along with me, that would be great. All right. So, have a lovely afternoon. Goodbye.